Okay, we're continuing learning the the Magilla, Magilla, which was written shortly after the beginning of the Second Temple. It says that Esther requested that from the Anshe Knesset Gadola, from the people, men of the Great Assembly, which that included also Mordechi. Mordechi also wrote this. Mordechi and Daniel and the three prophets, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi, and there was Zerubbabel, and these incredibly great people, and they were the people of the Great Assembly, and they agreed and they wrote this book for all time. Interestingly enough, it's the only book, the Magilla, and the only book in all of the books of Judaism that does not contain the name of God in any way. Doesn't mention anything about God, to the degree that some people say that every time it says Hamelech, the king, is referring to God, and the whole thing is just a big allegory. Right? Hamelech. Okay. Anyway, there's also more interesting things about this, but let's continue. So what happens over here? The Jewish people are sitting high. Best situation that have ever been in the history of the world. The queen of the world is a Jew. This is before she becomes before he marries her. So all the Jews are invited to Achashverosh's big feast, 6-month-long feast, 180 days, and then he makes a special feast just for the people who live in Shushan, and all the Jews go. And Mordechai tells them not to go, but they go anyway. So they go, okay. And then what happens? And then Achashverosh gets all drunk, knocked out drunk, and he wants his wife to come and dance naked in front of everybody. And she refuses because all of a sudden breaks out leprosy or something on her body. She would love to do it, but she can't because she doesn't look good. So he consequently has her killed. Who gives the advice to have her killed? One of his advisors called Memuchan, and this Memuchan ends up to be Haman. Haman is a tremendously wealthy person. He becomes tremendously wealthy. He's very clever. In any case, but meanwhile, so the king got his way, killed his wife, and now he has this, but he hasn't got a wife. So it says after these words, kashoch, they're calmed down the anger of the king, Achashverosh. Let's see, is this 1 second? Yeah. He got a little calm, and he remembered Vashti and what she did and what he decreed on her. But he came to, Rashi says what? He remembered Vashti, how beautiful she was, and he got sad. And also, so what did the king do? What did the king do? Well, this is the next sentence. So the next sentence, it says that some of his young men that were serving him, they said, let's choose. Why does the king just, you got all the women in the whole kingdom, so maybe they find a beautiful girl, and all the girls, find all the beautiful girls, all the beautiful virgins, and have them all brought in front of you. All them brought in front of you. We already talked about this. And the king should make a decree that everybody should bring their girl. And it ends up, we're going to see that also the married women, also, not just the virgins, also the women that weren't virgins, that everybody was brought in front of him. He was a fool. And he says, in any case, the woman, but nevertheless, all the women think to themselves, why should I live this drab, normal life? I can be the queen of the whole world, huh? And to the one, and he says that whoever finds favor in the eyes of the king, this sort of weird beauty pageant, and that'll be the king's wife. And the king liked it, so he did so. Ish Yehudi, there was a Jew in Shoshana Birah, and his name was Mordechai, the son of Yir, the son of Shimi, Kish Ish Yamini. We talked about this before. He was really from the tribe of Benjamin. That's what Yamini, but he was called Yehudi. One of the reasons why it's called Yehudi, one reason is because he left in the exile of Yehuda, which was like 11 years before the temple was destroyed. And another, first temple. And another reason is because a Yehudi is somebody that denies idolatry. Let's look at Rashi over here. Yeah, here he gives that the different reason. So he said that really he was from the tribe of Benjamin, and the rabbis, they have all sorts of interpretations that say, like I told you, that because he denied idolatry, so therefore he was Yehudi. Now all these people in Achashverosh's time, they were worshiping everything that moved, everything that was impressive to them. Okay, so this beauty. So what do we? Let's just go back here. It says he was Ishi Benyamini, and he was Gola. He was exiled from Jerusalem with Yochania. Now the Yochania, like I said, this was like 11 years, something like that, before the temple was destroyed. Nebuchadnezzar conquered the country, but he didn't destroy the temple. And he took one of the kings, Yochania, Melech Yehuda, took them. Nebuchadnezzar took him from Babel. He brought him to Jerusalem. I'm sorry, he brought him to Shushan, took him from Jerusalem. So Mordechai was together with him. Mordechai left to be protect the Jews. And V'hoya Omein et Hadassah, and he brought up this lady called Hadassah. Who is Hadassah? Esther. And it says in the Gemara that she was called Hadassah. Hadassah means like a hyssop. It's a type of a plant because she was really not so beautiful. She was greenish. But for some reason, this is exactly what Haman wanted. He was a bit of a pervert anyway, so that's what he wanted. In any case, Esther, she didn't have a mother and father, and she was very beautiful. She had a beautiful form, and she looked good. And when her mother and father died, so Mordechai took her as like a daughter, adopted her. And we said from Rashi that he took her labayat for his wife. He married her. Right? She was his niece. So he married her. That's according to one opinion. In any case, how could she then get married to Achashverosh? We'll talk about that later. In any case, when Mordechai heard when it was heard, made known that the king wanted to gather all these women to Shoshana Birah, to this Haggai, that was the king's, what do they call it, a satrap or something like that, his eunuch. They used to castrate somebody and make him the head of he would be the, how do you say, the protector of the women, of his harem, the king's harem. Any case, so Esther went to the house of the king and to this Haggai, Shomer Nashim. He was the one who watches over the women. But there's a lot of explanations over here, but I'm quoting outside a little bit of what it says. Okay, Vatitama Nara Beinov, and Esther found favor in his eyes. To give her these 7, she requested 7, and she was in the contest. He okayed her that she would be in the contest, and he gave her 7 maidens that could serve her in the house of the king. And it says that why did she take 7 maidens? That she used a different one every day so that she would know when Shabbat was, because she was removed from all Jews over there, so she didn't know. Rashi says that he hurried. The king hurried up her treatment. So all these ladies, they went for beauty treatments over there because they wanted to be a queen. And she wasn't really that interested in being the queen, but Mordechai told her to go. So Mordechai sensed that somehow or other something good was going to come out of this whole business. So at first he tried to hide her, but when he realized that he couldn't, so he told her to go. So that they could, so he hurried up her beauty treatment. Okay, you're going to see what type of beauty treatment everybody gets. 6-month beauty treatment. Pretty crazy. Now, Esther did not tell her people or her birth because Mordechai commanded her not to say anything about it. Kadei, in order that she would say that she was of if she said that she was a Jew, then everybody would say, hey, she's not got any sort of pedigree, and she would get kicked out. And on the other hand, if she knew that she came from a king, from King Saul, because he was in the same tribe as Mordechai was, for King Saul, that was from Benjamin, then that they would keep her. So he just wanted her to have an equal chance over there, an equal chance with everybody else. Okay, every day Mordechai would walk in front of the yard of this house where all the women were coming to know what's going with Esther and what has happened with her. Rashi, this is one of the two tzaddikim that God gave them a hint of salvation. David and Mordechai. David, it says, also at the Ariv, at the Dov, Hika Avdecha. There's a story that says that King David, when he was being chosen, you know the story of how King David was chosen to be the king. So King David, he was one of the sons of Yishai, but he came from a maidservant of Yishai's. So Yishai was sort of ashamed of him, so he put him out in the field. And Samuel, the prophet Samuel, was told by God, go to Yishai and anoint one of his sons to be the next king. Now, this is when King Saul was still the king. But nevertheless, he had want to be king, and he had to be kept secret. So he goes to each one of them, and this Yishai had these beautiful, handsome, righteous, genius sons, all of them powerful warriors and brave and intelligent, and God didn't agree with any of them until finally came to David, and God said, this is the one I want. So he said, I mean, are you a warrior or anything? So King David said, well, the fact of the matter is, I never really understood this, but I was watching the sheep, and there was a lion and a bear that came and attacked. And they say there's a way of learning out there was like several lions and several bears, and they attacked. And he said that this didn't come on, and I defeated them all. I defeated them with my own bare hands. Let's see if I can get this picture. There we go. I defeated them all, and this is that I knew that from then on that I was a big warrior. King David said he was a warrior. In fact, he did. He led the troops against the police team and everybody. So God sent him a sign to King David that he was fit to be the leader. And the same thing with Mordechai. It says, now I know that Esther was taken into with the women, and she was not taken lemishkav orel. He didn't have any relations with her, the king, yet in any case. So he knew that she was going to come and save the Jewish people. Therefore, he wanted to know what was going to happen, right? What was exactly going to be with Esther. He understood from a sign that Esther was not raped. He was taken from all the women. Now this Achashverosh, she was like a real, a really debauched sort of person. So he would have relations with all these ladies, and to decide, well, maybe maybe not. So he was when Mordechai saw that Esther remained untouched, so he knew that this was a sign from God that something special was going to happen. Ubahagia Torah Esther. Finally, the turn Esther comes to the king Achashverosh. She underwent these 12 months of beauty treatments, because that's what they did. 6 months that she would have been some sort of oils they would put, and 6 months with perfumes they would put. Says the Torah means the time. That's what it says. The turn of Esther. Okay, so Esther underwent this big beauty treatment, right? Not exactly. It says that all the other women, when they came in front of the king, all these women, they wanted to win. So this woman would say, give me massages with cinnamon, and the other one would say, give me, a hairdo or something like this. And so they all would come to the king. Every woman calls shchok v'mine zamar, any type of what is enjoyment or pastime was requested. The woman wanted to be put into a good mood. Excuse me 1 second. And they would come with her from the house of the Nashim to the house of the king, right? There would be an orchestra or some. It would be an introduction, right? But Esther was a little bit different from everybody. It says, Esther, next sentence, in the evening she would come to the king. In the morning she would go back to the house of the women again, and she would be kept there by a person called Shashgaz, who was another one of the eunuchs of the king, and he would protect the concubines of the kings. She would not come into the king again unless the king desired her. So in other words, the king, he tested out each one of these women, and then he would say, okay, number 55, I want to try her again, and number 56, whatever it is. And then we should get a second chance. Okay, when it came to the turn of Esther, Bas Avichail, the daughter of Avichail, who was the uncle of Mordechai, that he took as a wife or for a daughter to come to the. So she didn't request anything. She didn't request anything. I don't want to have any accompaniment. Whatever Haggai, the eunuch of the king, said, that was good. And Esther, for some reason or other, everybody that saw her liked the way that she looked. Everyone, she found favor in everybody's eyes. Esther went to the king Achashverosh, to his palace on the 10th month. On the 10th month, this is the month of Tavis, on the 7th year of his kingship. Now, this whole business started. He made this big meal where he killed Vashti on the 3rd year of his rulership, and this is already the 7th year. So it took 4 years for him to test out all these women, right? Every single night, a different woman, etc. Once in a while, he would repeat just to make sure. All of a sudden, the king loved Esther from all the other women, and she found favor in his eyes from all of the virgins. Who were the women? Who were the virgins? So it says the women, these were the women that already had relations, even people's wives, who knows, and also the virgins. And he put the crown on her head, and he said, that's it, you are my wife. He says also the Be'ulot, also the women that were not virgins, also he tested them all out, Why take chances? Maybe the one that he wants is already had relations. So anyway, he gets Esther. The king made a big meal, the kol sarav, for all of another big meal for all of his ministers and his servants, and this was called the feast of Esther. And he made a reduction in for all the countries, a reduction in taxes, and he gave gifts to everybody. Rashi, what does he say? For her honor, he said he took away the taxes, at least for that year or for that month, whatever it was, and he sent gifts to everybody to everyone. The only reason he did this was to impress her, that maybe she would say what her race was, what nation came from. But nevertheless, what? Nevertheless, when the virgins were gathered another time, and Mordechai was sitting in the gate of the king, what does it mean? After he already picked Esther, but nevertheless he wasn't finished, right? He said, let's have another round of these virgins again. Just to make sure there's nobody like Esther. He did all this in order that Esther would tell her where she came from. Where she came from. Look how nice I am. I'm giving gifts. I'm making a big party for you. You're going to be known everywhere. Maybe I'll look for another wife. Maybe tell me who you are. Esther does not tell her birthplace and her people. She doesn't say she's a Jew, just like Mordechai commanded her. And whatever Mordechai said, Esther did, just like she was, because she was faithful to him. Rashi, why Mordechai was sitting at the gate of the king, and he was always reminding her and giving her all sorts of hints. She could look out his window, and Mordechai was saying, don't say who you are. He knew that the king wanted to know this secret. In those days, Mordechai was sitting at the gate of the king. All of a sudden, Bigtan and Teresh were two of the eunuchs of the king, the servants of the king, whatever they were. And they were watching the Saf, they were watching the treasury, whatever, and they decided to kill Achashverosh. So what the reason was, I read this, that Esther, now she was the queen, right? So she said, Your Majesty, don't you have any Jewish advisors? I mean, Achashverosh, he had a big Jewish advisor. He had Daniel, Belshazzar. He was a big, king, and he had Daniel was his advisor. Don't you have Jewish advisors? She said, Jewish advisors, I don't really know who. I got some non-Jewish advisors. I got this big son of a Serish. She said, oh, that's so nice, but you don't have any Jewish ones. So he said, you know what? He's so crazy about Esther. So he fires big son of a Sheresh. He fires him, and he puts Mordechai in their place. So this big son of a Sheresh, they say, listen, let's kill the king. And then we're going to kill the king. We'll get our job back. But we'll get our job. Why? Because, however it works, if the king gets killed, then we can do some sort of politics, and we'll get. If the king does not get killed, and he realizes that somebody tried to kill him, so we'll say, see, Your Majesty, when we were serving under you, nobody dared to try to kill you. But now you see that there's attempts on your life because, right, you've got this Jew over there, and the Jew, anyway, they were talking about it, how to do it, how to get rid of him. They wanted to wanted to poison the king. And it happened to be that the thing became known to Mordechai. How? Because it says that Mordechai, he understood all the languages. He was one of the members of the Sanhedrin. In any case, he understood all the languages in the world. And he also understood this bizarre language that they were speaking in. Let's see what the language is here. It says, they were talking in front of him in the language of Tarsi. what's Tarsi? I don't know. But anyway, some language. And they didn't know that Mordechai understood all 70 languages, because he said he was one of the people that sat in the Lishkat HaGazit. That's where the Sanhedrin, the high court, was. So he was one of the 71 people in the high court, and he understood this language. So they were talking away, and let's kill the king. And Mordechai understood every word they were saying. And it was searched for. Oh no, what happened? Oh, no. I skipped the line, didn't I? Here. Mordechai, and he told Esther, the queen, and Esther told the king in the name of Mordechai. So now the king, he really respects Mordechai, because Mordechai saved his life, and of course he respects Esther. She saved his life, and he said, "Let's see if it's true." He sent his spies, or his detectives, and the thing was checked out, and it was found, and they hung, both of them got hung up on a tree. And this was written in a book of the what is it, the diary history in front of the king. And this is what's going to save the Jews. This is going to save the Jews, because Mordechai, he's going to rise to power. We're going to see in just a minute. He's going to rise up to power, and he's going to want to kill the king. And the king is going to have a little bit of doubts about this whole thing. I'm sorry. I spoke, I wasn't aware of what I said. Mordechai wanted to kill all the Jews, and the king had a little bit of doubts about this whole business, and he ended up reading from this history thing that happened to him. He read for this thing that they wanted to kill him, and that Mordechai saved him. We'll see. Okay, but nevertheless, it says that God precedes the medicine before the disease, the healing before the sickness. This is the healing. The fact that Mordechai miraculously saved the king from these two assassins, and it got written down in the book of the king's whatever his diary, right? The diary, the chronicles of the king, in front of the king. Oh, Rashi says, what was written? The good that Mordechai did to the king. Next chapter. Oh, no. There's 10 chapters altogether. Okay, third chapter. Achar hadavorim Gidal Melech Achashverosh es Haman ben Amadata Hagagi v'Yanaseo. There's some people that every time that the word Haman is mentioned, they make a lot of noise. This also keeps the kids occupied. And it keeps them from going to sleep. I'll tell you a little innuendo what happened over here. Like I told you, I don't know if I did tell you, but in any case, I went to Hebrew school. I had to go to Hebrew school before my bar mitzvah. They forced me to go to Hebrew school, and I was a terrible kid, and I got kicked out. I had to learn my bar mitzvah on my own. I was really just atrocious. I made trouble for everybody, and anyway, I had to learn my haftorah, my bar mitzvah portion at home. My father told me, but that's a separate story. In any case, I had a good friend, and his name was Lionel Bodson. I don't know where he is. I've been out of touch with these people. For some reason, I remember his name. We're talking about a long time ago, right? So it was Purim, and we were all forced to come to hear the Magilla. I know what the Magilla was. I had no idea. I didn't care. Anyway, Lionel Bodson, said, it's going to be okay. Listen to this. So he came with a long coat. I couldn't figure out why. I figured maybe it was a Purim costume or something. Underneath this coat, he brought a foghorn that it wasn't electric. He would move this crank, and it was this hideous just noise that was it shook everybody's soul. And it was terrible. And after he did like 2 or 3 times, so he got kicked out also. The rabbi came, took him by his ear, and kicked him out. But every time they would say Haman, and this is the first time it says, Haman ben Amadata, I have another story about this also, but I'll tell that later. Anyway, he made this long noise. Oh, he had this sort of look, this angelic look on his face, like he wasn't doing anything. It took him about 2 or 3 times until they finally caught him, but they did catch him. Anyways, in Chabad, we do not make noise every time the word Haman is mentioned. That's our custom. Only when Haman is mentioned with something else. Haman ben Adatab, Haman Agagi, Haman Hara, right? Anyway, this is the first time, and we do make an so Haman ben Abadata, the Agagi. Now, Agag was the king. Agag was the king that King Saul, he was the king of Amalek, Agag. And King Saul made a war against Amalek, and he killed them all except for the king. He thought it would be better to bring the king back. The king's name was Agag, and he let him live for one night. Somehow or other, he got a hold of a lady, got her pregnant that night. The next morning, he was cut to pieces by Samuel. He was cut to pieces by Samuel, Shmuel the Navi. But anyways, in that night, so who came out? Who was the result of this story? The story with the Shmuel. This happened like what 500 years before. But nevertheless, who came out? Haman. Haman is from Amalek. That's Agag. Anyway, so Haman, the son of this person called Hamdata, and he came from the tribe of Amalek, which tribe of Amalek is Jew haters, and he elevated him, and he put him on a throne above all of the other ministers that were, because he was the one who gave him the advice to kill Vashti. Rashi says, after that there was created this healing, right? That Mordechai saved the king's life, and that now this it was already prepared, that the salvation of the Jewish people was just ready and waiting. So the king elevated Haman. God created the cure for this disease of the Jews before there came the disease itself. Right? That's after this happened, after the king's life was saved by Mordechai, that's when Haman was elevated to this high position. All the servants of the king that were in the gate of the king had to bow down and prostrate themselves in front of Haman. This is what Mordechai did. But Mordechai lo yichrav lishtachaveh, and Mordechai refused to bow down. Right? And why did they all bow down? Because Haman made himself into a god. Therefore, Mordechai did not bow down, and he certainly did not prostrate himself before the king. It also says another place that Haman had a little statue around his neck, that anybody who had any doubts about it, so this little statue was his god or whatever, and so everybody bowed down. It says Mordechai did not bow down. Interestingly enough, it does not say that Mordechai did not bow down. It says Mordechai will not bow down, and he will not prostrate himself. In other words, it was totally impossible for Mordechai to bow down now or the future. He would rather die than to bow down to Haman, which that doesn't make any sense. But we'll see that because it doesn't make any sense, that's what saved the Jewish people. And because the Jewish people don't make any sense. If the Jewish people went according to their sense, there wouldn't be Jewish people a long time ago, a long time after a long time. The Jews didn't want to go into Israel. The Jews didn't want to leave Egypt, right? So the Jews would have been gone a long time ago if they went according to their sense. That's why we need Moses. All the servants of the king that were in the gate of the king, they said to Mordechai, why are you transgressing the word of the king? I mean, everybody's bowing down to Haman. Come on. What do you have to be a weirdo for? Huh? What do you have to be different? And when they said after day, and Mordechai refused to listen to them, it was told to Haman that he should see if Mordechai will continue doing this, because it was told to them that he's a Jew. Mordechai declared in public, I am not bowing down forever. because he's a Jew. And a Jew cannot bow down to anything except for the God who took us out of Egypt. Can't bow down to anything. Doesn't make any difference how powerful or successful or appealing it is, or life-saving. It was life-saving. Just bow down. It's a big deal. Big deal. I mean, just to bow down. Come on, it'll save your life, and you can live a normal life. Mordechai said, no way. I'm not bowing down. I'm not moving my head. I'm not bowing down. A Jew is forbidden to worship any sort of a creation whatsoever, even if it benefits him tremendously, saves his life. Haman saw that Mordechai will not bow down, and he became very angry. What was he so angry about? What was he angry about? He should go to a course for temper control. No. Mordechai was from the tribe of Amalek. He was from Haman. From Haman was from Agag, from Amalek. All of a sudden, this was his true identity was revealed. His true essence self, to destroy the Jews. He didn't want to just kill Mordechai alone, because he was told that Mordechai, there was a Jew, and now Haman wanted to destroy all the Jews. They were all in the kingship of Achashverosh with the nation of Mordechai. Suddenly Mordechai, revealed his true self. I hate the Jews. Mordechai now says, this is the real me. Why did he hate the Jews? Because he hates God. And Mordechai was the representative of God in the world, like all of the Jews are. So B'chodesh HaRishon, in the first month, this is the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of the king, Achashverosh. This is already 9 years after the feast, right? 9 years after the feast. He threw some sort of lots. I don't exactly understand how it was. But anyway, he threw some sort of a lottery in front of Haman to decide which day of the month it would be and which month it would be. And it came out to the 12th month. That's the month of Adar. The 12th month. The first month of the year is Nisan. That's when Passover is. The last month of the year, the 12th month of the year, that's Adar. That's the month that we're in now. And Rashi says he threw some sort of a lottery, and it didn't exactly explain who it is. It was Haman that did. And it says, what is the poor? Poor is a girl. The poor is a Aramaic word, a Persian word, poor. So it comes out this holiday of Purim is the only holiday in Judaism that has a not Hebrew word, not Jewish word. Poor, it even says, poor hu agaral. Poor hu agaral. That's what it says. Poor hu agaral. Goral is a Hebrew word. It means like a lottery. And the word poor is not even a Jewish word. It's not a Hebrew word. So the holiday of Purim is not even a Jewish name holiday. So here we got two things. First of all, in the whole Magilla, God's name does not appear. Another thing is the holiday of Purim. It's the only holiday in Judaism that has a not Jewish name. He threw it for which day of the month it was going to come out to be, and it came out in the month of Adar. Now, Haman was very happy that it came out of Adar, because Adar was the month that Moses died. But he didn't know that it was also the month that Moses was born. So Moses brought the Torah and he did all these wonderful things to the Jewish people. And that he'd overlooked. So Haman said to the king Achashverosh, listen, there's this one people. They're spread among all the nations. And all the kings of the king, all the countries of the king. And their religion is different from all the other nations. And the laws of the king, the religion of the king, they don't do. The king, it's not worth the king's while, lahanicham, to let them live. It's not worthwhile that they should exist, these people. They're just, Rashi says, they don't even, he says, he made up more. He said, and they don't even give they don't give taxes. They don't pay taxes to the service of the king. And therefore, ein shaveh, he says it's not worth it. Here he means ein shaveh means that there's no loss, right? Ein chashash, in other words, there's no advantage to let them live. The king is not getting anything. There's just like a big boil on the king's neck or something. Let's just get rid of him. Now the king does not know that his wife, that he loves more than anything else, is a Jew. He doesn't know this. Meanwhile, Haman's talking away. Now the king really likes Haman. Haman is the king's man. If the king really likes it, he should write to destroy them. And I'll give 10,000 bars of silver to whoever does the work. Right? And they'll bring they'll bring to the storehouses of the king. Rashi, write books in order to order the kings of the nation, the leaders of the nations, to kill the Jews. Okay, now what happened let's see if we'll go. Let's do it for 2 more minutes. We're not going to finish this today, but we can at least get a little. The king took off his ring from his finger, and he gave it to Haman ben Hammedatah Agagi. Again, everybody's pounding. Lionel Batson sounds the Tzara Yudim. He took his king ring off. This means that what? Taking off the ring and give it to him means that you can now do whatever you want to. You can rule anything that the king, nobody can question anything that you said. All of a sudden he loves Haman. The king said to Haman, keep the money, and keep this nation. You can do whatever you want to with them. Right? Do whatever you want to with Jews. What do I care? They were called the scribes of the king. On the first month, on the 13th day of this first month, and it was written, whatever Haman said to the Achashtar Panei, it's some sort of the servants of the king, and the Pachot, another type of, anyway, to send all the nations of the whole world and all of the nationalities of the whole world, and write like this, and should be sealed with the ring of the king. Now, you have to take notice of something. When did Haman throw these lots? It was in Nisan, the first month of the year. When was the decree supposed to be carried out? On the 12th month of the year. In other words, 1 full year after the decree was decided and advertised, 1 full year was going to be hanging over the Jews' head this death. Okay, now the fact is, he didn't say it was going to be the Jews. He didn't say that it was going to be the Jews. Let's see. Let's see what the decree is. There were proclamations sent with runners to all the countries to destroy all of the Jews, from child until elder, babies and women, on one day, on the 13th day of the 12th month. Okay, these books were written, it says, Ashtra Tarmish. Anyway. Okay, now it explains in other places that what was going on over here. The fact is, that's not what it said in the letter. In the letter that he sent out, it said to everyone, you should all get ready to kill a certain nation. Because he didn't want the Jews to know until right before, to kill a certain nation. And everybody had to get ready to kill this nation. So everybody's sharpening up their swords and everything, everyone in the world. But Mordechi heard about it. He heard about it, about the Ruach HaKodesh, that's what was going to be. That it was the decree was against the Jews. In all the countries, it was revealed that on this day, it's an Aramaic word, Pashegan, that this day would be revealed which nation is it that's going to be killed. Which nation is it? And he's tried to sort of keep it quiet. The runners went out, and the word of the king, and the law was put in Shushan Abirah, and the king and Haman they sat and to get drunk, and the city of Shushan was all confused. What does it mean? All the Jews that were in the city of Shushan, they all got confused because they heard that this decree was going to be against them. So they didn't know what they could do. They were in a big trouble. What's going to be the end? We already know that's going to be a happy ending. But let's see. Tomorrow we're going to learn the third. We just finished the third chapter. Tomorrow we're going to learn the fourth chapter. Mordechai gathers all the Jews and the children. Very exciting. Hope to see you all tomorrow. 8:15 tomorrow, Chassidut. 3 o'clock tomorrow, Magilla Esther. Have a good day with Mashiach now.